Hi, I'm Box.
I'm Couchguy.
You're watching the Two Smart Guys show, where every week we bring you the latest and greatest in computer hacking, modding,
Warranty voiding,
destruction, or
getting the most out of your stuff.
creation. And
this week is a creation, beginning with creation. We've been talking about doing FreeNAS, and FreeNAS put in a new version 8, a little while ago, and we've been wanting to play with it.
So what is FreeNAS? Why would anybody be interested in such a device? What does NAS stand for?
Network attached storage, which is the first big thing. So for a lot of us that are doing either multiple computers in your house, media centers, things like that, where you maybe want to talk to, be it your PlayStation or your Xbox or whatever you're doing.
Somewhere to back up all your files.
Somewhere to back up all your files. A central location for everything. And there's been lots of solutions for NAS, network text storage.
Right. And there's a lot of online stuff, but online stuff is only as fast as your internet connection.
Absolutely.
If you can have a local one, you can go, like this supports 10 gigabit.
Absolutely.
So
we're talking about a system that is open source. Because anytime you can use open source, you're better off because you're not paying usage fees. We're restricted by someone else's updates, things like that. We're also a lot
more flexibility.
We're also talking about a system that you can build yourself, which means that you're scalable. You're not restricted into different companies sell their own little boxes where they're just a couple of hard drives and they're plugged into a USB or not USB Ethernet jack. And you've got yourself a network
what do those
text
cost?
storage.
A couple $100?
A couple $100 is a starting, and they're not very big. We're talking like anything 500 gigabytes to maybe a terabyte and a half at this point.
We're talking about spending a similar amount of money, but having way more storage and way more customizable, way more features.
I think at this point right now, give or take a few bucks here and there, I think we're up to like $275 with change, maybe 300. We'll say with $300. That's probably the point where I feel comfortable with. We're $300. Yeah. We are using some used parts from other computers, which I would expect you to do the same thing at home.
Yeah, but you can build this thing for free if you got a whole machine line, right?
And that's the key. We want to try and show you how to do this cheap. So what do we want to get out of this? I want to get a system where I can have a backup RAID, because right now I have a server, but it's a bunch of different drives, and if I lose a drive, I've lost hundreds of gigs. That's a big deal. When you're running terabytes of information, I want to back up my iTunes. I want to back up my family photos. I want to have a location for my media center to talk to. I kind of want to have a little bit of my own little home server. Maybe in the future, my own little cloud.
Yeah, and so it's redundant, right? So you can have multiple drives in this thing, and if one fails, just pop in another one. And
we do have different RAID versions with this. FreeNAS has supported software RAIDs.
If anybody's familiar with Drobo, apparently ZFS is a very similar setup. It's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, and we're not really clear with all what works and what doesn't work, but the basics of Drobo is that it's an expandable RAID array system. So if you had all 1 terabyte drives, and then suddenly 2 terabyte drives come around, you could start pulling out 1 terabyte drives, put in the 2 terabyte drives, and build your system without crashing your system.
Right. So and Drobos start out at like $500.
Yeah, and they're not very big. So in terms of how many bays you have to fill up.
Right.
So the big deal, that's a ZFS system, which is what we're going to try and do, which is an expandable system. It's similar to how RAID 5 and 6 kind of work, but it's different because it's expanded. Yeah, we're going to be experimenting with this to see how well it works.
There's different types of RAIDs you can do. The one we're going for is not necessarily for speed as much as it is for redundancy and expandability,
because we want to make sure that this is something that can grow with your needs. Yeah, because you don't want to be locked into 5 terabytes.
And you might be ripping your DVDs now, but in a year you might be ripping Blu-rays.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you can have all the space you ever want. Who knows? In 1 terabyte today is 3 terabytes tomorrow. They have in drives, so it's always expandable.
So system requirements for FreeNAS 8 are a little bit higher this go around than FreeNAS 7. Yeah, so the minimum requirements is at least 2 gigabytes of space, 4 gigs of RAM. Now
this will run on 32-bit and 64-bit architecture. I'm planning on running the 64-bit architecture because the processor will run it. You want to make sure that it asks you to have 4 gigs of RAM. I have to, I think right now on mine.
Yeah, and if you're running full ZFS, they're wanting you to do like 6 gigs plus of RAM.
Well, what they really want you to do is they want you to give you a gig of RAM per terabyte of stored information. I'm going to try and cheat the system. I'm going to try and use an internal hard drive to act as a swap alone. And maybe we can see if we can get past that. We'll see if it works. I'm not sure if it will. I've been told it will work. I've been told it won't work. So we're going to find out for sure.
My theory is it'll work, but it won't be very
but if it's
fast.
It depends. I think it only uses that side of it if it's rebuilding. So if it's not super fast and just takes longer to rebuild, I'm okay with that. If it's because the drives are doing we'll find out because I want to make sure.
I think there's a reason why they have it that big.
I'm sure there is. You know, we're trying to do this on the cheap, so 8 gigs of RAM is just not in the budget right now. But for the most part, the biggest requirements is that they want something roughly 4 gigs of memory and they don't want you to use a hard drive to hold the system on it. They want you to use something that's more solid state. So whether it be a compact flash, a USB stick, or in our case, I'm going to use this 8 gigabyte SSD that plugs right into the IDE port, and that's going to be my
we picked this bad boy up at DEF CON for what, $5?
$5. Yeah, if this works, it's going to be awesome because for $5, I got 8 gigs.
You could also use a USB stick.
Absolutely, and if it doesn't work, I'm using a USB stick. So I think we'll just go into the parts.
Yeah. What else are we building your system?
To begin with, I have a used computer. I picked this up, honest to goodness, at a college salvage. It's got the little logos.
So what kind of processor is that thing running?
This now this may or may not be the one.
Oh, it's a Core 2 Duo.
This is a Core 2 Duo. I have another one that's a Pentium D that I might actually run instead of this one.
Okay, so Core 2 Duos aren't all 64-bit.
This one is.
Oh no, Core 2s aren't 64-bit. Core 2 Duos are 64-bit.
Core 2 Duos are 64-bit. Yeah. No, I have a Pentium D at home that is 64-bit capable too that I've been running as my server right now. I didn't feel like taking down my server.
Technically, your Pentium D might be faster, maybe.
This one's a little bit faster. It's very similar, but the Pentium D, I like the Pentium D better for this because this one's got a little nicer.
This one got 2 gigs of RAM in it though?
Yeah.
Is it DDR2?
Yeah.
You know what's weird is DDR2 is way more expensive than DDR3.
That's why I can't afford to buy more RAM for it, just for this.
Like I picked up like 8 gigs of DDR3 for like $30. It was like, and then I was looking at buying some DDR2, and it was like going to be $100.
Yeah, it's weird. So the big deal about this one is it has some of the features that I want to have. It has PCIe the slots on the motherboard that are nice. It's got a decent enough processor to do what I want with a Pentium D or the Core 2 Duo, and it came cheap. I paid $5 for it.
$5 computer,
which means it's awesome.
But the key is this is the storage, right? I mean, we want how are you going to store everything?
So the biggest thing is, I didn't want to store it inside the box because this box means that I have to get inside of it and I have to do things like that. I don't want to do that. I want to deal with this externally in case I have a drive failure. So we picked up a little storage device here, and this pops open. Go to the other camera real quick. And it has 5 slots. They're up to 3 terabytes capable of being read, and it pops out the back with a little SATA port. Okay, little independent power unit, fan, heating, cooling. You know, lovely little device. I think we picked it up for a song for $100.
Was it 150 or 100? I think it was 150.
I think it was $150 off. Yeah, I think it was 100. I think it was $100. No,
I can't remember.
We'll say $150. We'll say $150.
I think it was 150.
Here's $100 off. Normally these are $250. Yeah. We got it for $100, $150, $100 off on Newegg. It was really a good choice at that point. Picked up a.
And you don't necessarily need one of those. You can use like all the internal bays, but if you want to be able to...
absolutely can use the internal bays. I want to be able to expand. I want to have the 5 inside there. I can only hold 4 inside of what I've got now. I did want to deal with it. I'd rather have something on the outside. Plus, that means if for some reason the computer, I blow it up, I'm not blowing. Anyway, I picked up the SATA card. This is whopping $30. And what's nice about it is this is able to do multiple drive communication. So if I want to do JBOD, which is just a bunch of drives, I don't have to use the RAID system that this little box is going to try and talk to me with. I can actually use just a bunch of drives and talk to them individually. So FreeNAS can do the monitoring.
Right. So it won't be done on the hardware in the box. It'll be done through the software. So
that gives me options again. The other thing is just hard drives. We picked up a hard drive, 2 terabytes for roughly $100.
Yeah.
So right now, between drives that I'm recycling, just not using, drives that I'm buying new, I think I've got 3 2 terabyte drives and 2 1 terabyte drives that I'm gonna try and put all inside this device. So with the ZFS, a little bit of redundancy and the little loss that you get here and there, I should have just over 6 terabytes, probably 7.
Wait, how many terabytes do you have total before the ZFS?
Before the ZFS, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8.
8?
So I should have between 6.5 and 7, depending on how. Really?
No, you're gonna lose
1.5 terabytes, I thought.
You have to lose enough that there'd be enough to duplicate for every one. So like, it's like a third of your space is gonna go to redundancy at least.
We'll find out.
I don't know. The math's weird.
The math's weird on it. It doesn't matter. The point is that I'm not using the same size of drives in every single one of them. That's the part that I want to make sure works, because in reality, I don't have the money to put 2 terabyte drives. If I had the money, I'd put 3 terabyte drives in all of it, because this box will take 15 terabytes if I expand. Right now, I'm put 2 terabyte drives when I can afford them, and I've got 2 1 terabyte drives that are in my media server right now that I'm going to put inside there. And when they die or when something else happens, when I can expand, I'll pull those 1 terabytes out and I'll put 2 or 3 terabytes in there next time. Yeah. And that means I can expand. I'm in a RAID. We're good to go.
So you just need to download the ISO?
I'm going to download the ISO. We're going to do the build. I have to solder this little bad boy into power because it's actually got a little clip inside there so we're going to try and see how I can use this. This is a neat little device. We're going to see if
you could find a little adapter somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just going to solder. We're just going to get the iron out. I probably could find an adapter, but I'd probably spend a week trying to find the adapter. It would take me 20 minutes just to solder onto the power.
So join us next week as we show.
We're going to start building this.
Show the build, and we'll walk you through the software setup process to get a little.
Yeah, I'm going to do a deep detail on. We just got the parts list now. We're going to put it together. We'll go walk through the installation, and then we'll maybe a little bit of the setup and start doing setups and things like this. If you guys, here's the thing, we've had a lot of response on how people want to use this kind of system, and here's your chance to be a part of this. You tell us what you want to know how to do. I'm very much about, I want to back up my computers in my house, my wife's computer, and one of my computers is going to become act as a backup for her stuff, my stuff. iTunes backup and a media center are part of this build, what I want to do. I want to know what you want to do, because there are parts of this that I haven't thought about getting into yet because it doesn't affect me. Yeah. And we'll teach you how to, we'll learn how to do it together.
Yeah, just stay tuned to smartguys.com Mondays and subscribe to the feed and
somewhere in this
automatically.
Go to iTunes. We like you on iTunes.
All right. See you guys next week.
This has been the Two Smart Guys production.